The unseen struggles of family dynamics. A tale of loyalty, betrayal, and redemption. Family is supposed to be a sanctuary, a place where love and understanding reign supreme. But what happens when the very people we hold closest become the source of our deepest pain? This is a story of 5 families, each grappling with their own battles, exposing the raw, unfiltered truths of human relationships. It's a journey through the messy, chaotic, and sometimes infuriating dynamics that shape our lives, challenging everything you thought you knew about love, duty, and fairness. Buckle up, because this isn't your typical family drama. It's a psychological roller coaster that will make you question your own biases and spark heated debates at your next dinner table. Story 1. The new parents and the overbearing mother. 2 months ago, my wife and I welcomed our first child into the world. It was a moment of pure joy. But the pregnancy wasn't easy. After the 6-month mark, complications forced my wife to isolate at home, cut off from the world she loved. We agreed that for the first 2 months after our baby's birth, only our parents and siblings could visit, giving us space to bond as a new family. But as soon as our baby hit that 2-month mark, my wife was itching to reclaim her social life. She'd head out for coffee or shopping with friends, sometimes taking the baby, other times leaving me to care for our newborn. If I couldn't watch the baby, she'd call her mom to step in. Don't get me wrong, my wife is an incredible mother. She adores our child, and her love is undeniable. But her constant need to go out started to wear on me. It felt like she was prioritizing her friends over our family. One day while I was home with the baby, my mother stopped by. When she asked where my wife was and I mentioned she was out shopping, my mom's face turned red with anger. She called me spineless for not confronting my wife, insisting that a proper mother would stay home. I tried to calm her down, promising I'd handle it, but my mom wasn't having it. When my wife returned, my mother unleashed a tirade, accusing her of being irresponsible and demanding she cut back on her social outings. I stood there mortified as my wife defended herself, pointing out that I'd gone out with friends during her pregnancy and after the birth. My mom and I argued that my outings were different. Men and women, we said, have different roles. My mother's words were harsh. Your little coffee dates are over. Get used to a limited social life. That's motherhood. I agreed with her, believing my wife needed a reality check. The fallout was brutal. My wife hasn't spoken to me in days. She moved into the guest room with the baby's crib, cooking only for herself and our child. Her mother and sister texted me, calling me an idiot, and my mom overbearing. And you know what? They're not entirely wrong. I called it babysitting when I cared for my own child. A slip that reveals my own skewed perspective. I never discussed my frustrations with my wife before my mom intervened, assuming she'd just understand. Here's the controversial hook. Why do we expect mothers to sacrifice their identities, while fathers get a free pass? Society drills into us that motherhood equals martyrdom. But is that fair? My wife's isolation during pregnancy left her craving connection, yet I judged her for seeking it. Postpartum depression is real, and an unsupportive spouse can amplify it. I failed to be her partner, letting my mother's outdated views dictate our marriage. This isn't just about my wife's social life. It's about the invisible load women carry, and the double standards we perpetuate. Story 2. The dinner party dilemma. My wife, a professional chef, has dreamed of hosting lavish dinner parties since she was a child. Last year, an unexpected bonus allowed us to renovate our dining room, complete with a marble table and sleek chairs. To celebrate, we planned a dinner party for our immediate family. My parents, her parents, my siblings, and my brother's wife. Everyone was invited except my wife's sister and her husband, my brother-in-law, who weighs over 500 pounds. This isn't about shaming him. The chairs we bought can't support his weight and he can't sit upright for long. Hosting in our living room or finding a medical chair that fits through our doors wasn't feasible. Plus, the party featured 7 small courses, a format my brother-in-law has criticized in the past, even harassing my wife over portion sizes. Inviting him would have derailed her dream, so we excluded him but invited her sister. When he called furious about being left out, I was honest. His weight and past behavior were the reasons. He accused us of bigotry, and his wife, my wife's sister, took to Facebook publicly shaming us. Friends called me elitist, but I stand by our choice. This night was about my wife's lifelong dream, not accommodating someone who'd likely disrupt it. Here's the provocative twist. Is it discrimination to prioritize your vision over someone else's needs? We bend over backward to be inclusive, but at what cost? If someone's behavior or physical limitations clash with a carefully planned event, are you obligated to compromise? My brother-in-law's denial of his limitations doesn't erase their impact. Yet, the social media firestorm suggests we're villains for setting boundaries. This story isn't just about a dinner party. It's about the tension between personal dreams and societal expectations. Story 3. The babysitting siblings with 6 kids. My wife and I have our hands full. She works 9 to 6, while I work from home 9 to 5. Our oldest daughters, a young adult and a teen, took on babysitting our younger kids, toddlers and a baby, after our last nanny left. We pay them $50 a day, split between them, for 2:30 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. They don't both need to be there, and they've set their own rules for splitting the money and covering shifts. Our rules are clear. A week's notice or an emergency like illness means no pay for that day, no penalty. But if they skip without notice or an emergency, they must find a replacement or lose $50 from that week's pay. Last night they announced they both had tickets to a drama club event, leaving no one to watch the kids. When they said their cousin couldn't cover and shrugged it off, I reminded them of the $50 penalty. They were upset, and my wife suggested a one-time pass, but I held firm. Our policy is more generous than most jobs, and I want them to learn responsibility. Critics call me cheap, arguing $25 each for 4 kids is a pittance compared to professional rates. $10 per kid per hour a decade ago. They say I'm exploiting my daughters, forcing them to parent their siblings. But here's the radical question. Why is paying family for childcare seen as unfair? My daughters chose this gig, and it's a win-win. They earn money, bond with their siblings, and learn accountability. Professional sitters might demand more, but they're not family. Still, I wonder if I'm too rigid, risking resentment from my girls. Story 4. The house and the handout. My husband and I, both in our 20s, bought a house in 2020, thanks to a $40,000 down payment and business startup funds from his father. When my sister-in-law, Sam, visited, I mentioned how owning a house ties us down, unlike her freedom as a renter. She seemed fine, but at a later family gathering she snapped, saying my husband's success wasn't hard work, it was a handout. She felt cheated, as her father didn't offer her similar help. I argued that my husband's effort made the business thrive, but Sam called me condescending, reminding me of my lucky renter comment. The backlash was swift. People called me blind to my privilege, noting that $40,000 could have helped Sam buy a home or start a business. They argued that renting is costlier long-term, with no equity, and moving isn't cheap, averaging $2,500. Here's the contentious angle. Is financial help from family a privilege or a right? My husband worked hard, but the startup capital gave him a leg up. Sam's resentment highlights a deeper issue: unequal treatment within families. I didn't see her struggle, and my words rubbed salt in the wound. This isn't just about money. It's about fairness and the stories we tell ourselves about success. Story 5. The landlord father-in-law. 8 years ago, my father-in-law bought a small house, planning to turn it into a vacation rental. It never happened, and a year ago he let my husband and me live there rent-free. We insist on leaving cash each month, but he still treats it like his house, dropping by unannounced to mow the lawn or check in. As someone who works from home, I'm mortified when he pops in during meetings, or when the house is a mess. Once he even searched for our hairdryer while we were out hiking. My husband asked him to call first, but he didn't listen. So we added a lock to an interior door without telling him. When he couldn't get in recently, he was furious, saying we locked him out of his own property. Legally, we're in a gray area. Changing locks without permission isn't okay. But neither is his constant intrusion. Here's the bold challenge. Why do we let family blur boundaries that strangers wouldn't dare cross? My father-in-law's generosity came with strings, and his refusal to respect our privacy turned a gift into a burden. Yet, our lock change was a power move, escalating the conflict. This story isn't just about a house. It's about control, respect, and the price of gratitude. The deeper truth these stories reveal a universal truth. Family dynamics are a minefield of unspoken expectations and hidden biases. We cling to roles, mother, father, sibling, in-law, without questioning their fairness. Confirmation bias makes us double down on our views, while empathy gaps blind us to others' struggles. My wife's social outings were her lifeline, not negligence. My brother-in-law's exclusion was practical, but it stung. My daughter's babysitting is a lesson, but maybe at too high a cost. Sam's resentment isn't jealousy, it's pain. And my father-in-law's intrusions aren't malice, they're habit. The controversial thread tying these tales together is this. We're all idiots sometimes, but growth comes from owning it. Challenge the norms. Question why mothers must sacrifice more, why family help breeds resentment, or why boundaries are harder with loved ones. These stories aren't just drama. They're a mirror, reflecting our flaws and daring us to do better. Conclusion. A call to reflect as I navigate these conflicts. I'm learning to listen before judging, to set boundaries with love, and to recognize my own blind spots. Family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's messy. So, next time you're tempted to call someone an idiot, pause, look deeper. You might find a story worth hearing, a lesson worth learning, or a bond worth saving. What's your family drama? And what's it teaching you? Let's start that conversation.